round questions. This is round one, and what I'm going to do, I'll be asking a question to individuals here, and there are some questions from the box, which is for the panel. Now, if a question asked is too difficult for any panelist, then you could just say that it is a complex question with many intersecting factors and may we suggest a solution, so pass on the question to someone else. That would be the simple solution to any difficult question. So the first question is for Mojda. Is there any virtues amongst all virtues that is the mother of all virtues that a person must develop in himself, herself, or other virtues to fall into place?
Ooh, what a beautiful question. They say that truthfulness is the foundation of all the virtues. And I always wondered why truthfulness. So I asked someone and they were like, you can be pretending to be generous, but if you're truthfully generous, it comes from the heart. So all these virtues at the foundation may have truthfulness in their essence, so that it's honest. That's what I think.
Thank you. This one is for Alice. We know that the governments throughout the world are spending billions of dollars on crime-related issues like building more bigger jails, courts, police force, tackling depression and drugs. But the crime rate, especially juvenile crime, is on the rise. Therefore, isn't it better to spend small amount of this money on crime prevention, on time prevention methods such as teaching our babies from infancy about peaceful living? I think you have quite covered this, but you might have to sort of...
Well, the short answer is yes. It would be way better. Money went into early intervention and prevention, and that's what I'm really passionate about. But it is very challenging. Part of what one of my personal frustrations with when I was in the community services sector was always having to bend to particular guidelines or political agendas. There are other powers at play which make it really challenging. And there are narratives that we hear. Like I said, there's all these negative narratives about young people. And if we watch the media, then as a community we go, oh, what are we doing about all the troublesome young people? Like they're all on bail and getting all these things. And yeah, I think that there's a place. There is still a place for those harsher. We need to have a balance of some of the measures that are in place. There will always be challenges. We can't guarantee that there will never be any violence or any crimes committed that don't need to have some more restrictive kind of responses. But you can see that the weight of the balance is completely off. So we need to counter it with the preventative, positive reinforcement and positive influence approaches. I'm very passionate about it. That's why I do what I do. So I agree with the question. And a little bit of money can go a long way, but a lot more money would go a lot further, essentially. So I would appeal to governments and people in those positions of influence and the key decision makers to be investing. One of the other challenges I found was sometimes there was always a sense of, we have a lot of government-funded programs, and we would find a really good program, and we'd pilot it and test it, and say, okay, now that's really good. Now that you've found something that works, find someone else to fund it. And we have to spend a lot of time in community services scrambling for funding from someone else who will listen. And that's a real challenge, and I think that there needs to be a shift in the approach of government and those decision-making powers to, when you find a good thing, stick with it and build consistency. Because as Sagar's story pointed out, that you need that consistency over time for the real change to happen. Not always be looking for the new, shiny object. Right? Invest in things that work and invest for the long term. So, yeah.
Thank you. I think we should have had some government policy makers and decision makers over here.
Yeah. So if you know anyone, tell them.
This one is, thank you, Elliot. This question is for Shivali. It's on bullying, Shivali. Bullying, huge problem at the moment, and the person who presented this question knows 3 families struggling with this issue. covert bullying like social exclusion is often mishandled in schools. Sometimes suggests the victim become more resilient and even transfer instead of addressing the bullies. So the question is, how can schools effectively address bullying, racism, or discrimination without placing the burden on the victim?
I think transparency plays a big role, and there are a lot of positive behavior matrices that schools can put in place for that. And I can give an example of my school. We have a very strong positive behavior matrices transparent to teachers, parents, educators, community all the time. We have big posters posted in every class, so students are aware of what is going to happen. We do a lot of restorative practices as well. So if there is any bullying incident, we are not going to put it on the perpetrator or victim. We don't use that language at all. There is no negative language, use of language in our school. It's all positivity. Even if someone has bullied someone, it's not why you did that. It's like, what is the impact of this on the other person? So we do restorations between those two students, or whatsoever in that case. We don't pull them out of class. We don't say, okay, you're going to be in that area, you're going to be in that area, you're not going to talk to each other. That's building walls. We try to build bridges between those two kids, talk to them, and let's say if I'm the victim, how has it made me feel? And then the other person is trying to examine what would he feel if that was him or her. The other thing is we do a lot of circles in our class, so we have these mentor programs. But it's all about building relational capacity between the kids. So they are talking to each other, they have the right to express how they are feeling, and I think when we make this transparent to students, and parents know this as well. So we have seen a really big decline in the cases of bullying and harassment at our schools because it's actively spoken about. Now we are at a stage, if something is happening in a class, a student feels safe to say, Miss, that person is bullying me. And it's a straight action, whatever the school's policy is for. So students are no more bullied back. They feel like they are safe, they can speak.
Thank you, Shivali. This question is for school captain Wilbur. With so many virtuous programs on offer, why do you think there is so much delinquency? And this is the question that many people are asking today, including young moms, when we were trying to promote this program.
All right, thank you. I think a big reason is role models. A lot of young people today, the people they idolize, are very big celebrities or musicians, rappers, people like that. And these are people that lead lifestyles that, probably aren't the best or a little bit dangerous. There's a lot of substance abuse, there's a lot of crime, violence. And so when young people see that and idolize that, they too feel like they want to follow down that path. And for some people, it's just little things like speaking the way that they do, dressing the way that they do. But for others, it's a lot more extreme, They'll start abusing substances, they'll start committing crimes. So it's really about, shifting like who young people idolize. And if you look historically, over the past century or so, like we have, raised and elevated people that are rogues, that are rebels. Look at Martin Luther King. Look at the suffragettes. These are people that rebelled against the system because back then the system did have injustice. And now the system still does have injustice. It has improved, but it also has improved as well. However, there hasn't been that shift to now supporting people that support the system. Young people still go and support those who are against it. And so I think until that fundamental shift occurs, there'll still be young people acting up, going against it.
Thank you, Eva. Now we have a question for the other school captain, Sejal. Sejal, What does a peaceful generation mean to you?
So what I think a peaceful generation means to me is where curiosity and understanding and empathy come before judgment. I think what's really important is in a peaceful generation, is where if a rumor is heard or someone acts out of character or something bad happens, we don't go straight to judgment. We are curious about it, why they're acting that way, and have a sense of understanding and empathy as from their experiences and the way they were brought up, or just their life in general. I want to touch base on a mentor text that I did for VCE English. It was a TED Talk called The Danger of a Single Story. So this author, Adichie, she comes from a background, she comes from Nigeria, and her experiences of growing up were very positive. But as she moves to America, the stereotypes that come from white people have dictated their perception of Adichie. And what has happened is that the connections that should have fostered and should have grown from Adichie moving to America have been plummeted. So I think by having a peaceful generation, by understanding where everyone comes from and having a sense of empathy for others, fosters connections that are the cornerstone, especially for us like teenagers, in a very academic environment where it's hard, it's stressful, and those connections can help us, feel better and have a reason to wake up every day and come and just interact with everyone. So yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you, Sejal. Sagar, this question is for you. Would it be possible to paint a picture of a peaceful family and society at large and the differences with one that is currently we are familiar with?
Sorry, do you mind repeating that again?
Would it be possible to paint a picture of a peaceful family and society at large and the differences with the one that is currently we are familiar with?
So I think, to my mind, it talks, the question is really about how can we find an example of a family that we know to be a good, kind, supportive family. That's what I'm getting from the question. I would say, I think most of us, if we dig deep down, we know at least a few families like that, possibly more. And I think, and at the same time, we might also know some families who are struggling as well in different ways. And again, just linking that back to the idea of how do you raise peaceful next generations and inculcate virtues in children. So virtues education really begins in the family, because there's the very important influence that schools have, but families are the primary educator of their children, and so they of course have a very important role to play. And if they do that, then imagine as more and more families start thinking consciously about what it means to educate children with virtues and explicitly teach them about how to build peace, how to be kind. Imagine how that can transform a society over the long run.
Thank you, Sagar. This question is for Moshjan. How can parents damage their children by expecting them to be what they want them to be when they don't practice those virtues themselves? For example, telling lies in front of children, but expecting truthfulness from their children.
I don't know if that's going to work. I think we as parents have to have humility to actually acknowledge that we too are learning and growing and we need to be open. That's the only way, because and I think parenting is something we don't get any training for. Parenting and marriage, I think marriage nowadays we get some training for, but it is such an important aspect, and if we don't have the openness to learn how to parent better, then how can we expect our children to, how can we expect to be parents that can help our children to be the best version of themselves? So I think it's a parallel walking together. We learn, we are open, we need to be aware and hold our children's hand. They're only with us for so many years. They're not ours to keep, they're ours to learn from and walk together. So I think it's the only way we can grow. And as I said, my son was my greatest teacher because that was the teachable moment for me. How can I be a better parent? So I feel that's most important, to learn and then to share and to do our best then.
Thank you, Moshna. Here's a question for Alice. In the work that you do, that you and your organization does, how do you ensure all communities' fights and beliefs are represented and no one is left behind? What do you do to ensure progress in place?
Well, just to clarify, I'm just working for myself now. I left my previous organization to pursue this because I'm so passionate about it. But as Mojnan pointed out, the foundation of the Virtues Project is in the sacred texts and faiths from all over the world. It's not pushing one particular viewpoint. It's really tapped into what is universal across cultures, across faiths. And so by nature, it is something that is very accessible and understood by people of all cultures. In some of the workshops I've facilitated, we've had people from Anglo-Australian backgrounds, Muslim backgrounds, Christian backgrounds, different cultures, from Southeast Asia to African continent, all over the place. And they all come together in that moment and experience this unity that was the virtue by someone before. That it's speaking to their humanity. So by nature, it is something that is understood and felt because it's in here. It's not something that's sort of just coming from everyone's individual perspective or a cultural perspective. And the beauty of the strategies is that you can tweak and tailor it into your culture. Like one of the strategies of the Virtues Project is called Honoring the Spirit, and that's really about celebrating, your the things that are important to you and your family and your culture. Cultural celebrations, telling the stories of generations past. It's really about how do we honor our culture through using this language as well. So it's something that is really quite universal and embraced by people of all cultures, I find.
Shivali, you might have answered this question partly. The question is, what school-wide programs or activities have helped foster a culture of kindness and inclusion?
We do regular circles, class circles. That has been really creating a positive impact. It's about teaching them relational building among themselves. Plus, we also look at the language that we use when we're running these circles. Consistency as well. So what are we expecting out of them? And if we are, if we are modeling a consistent approach, they are reacting to it really well.
Thank you, Shivali. Wilbur, if you could make one big change in schools or communities to create a more peaceful future, what would it be and why?
Something I would try to change is the attitudes that young people have towards their elders, whether that be teachers or just older community figures. I feel there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom that can be passed down but doesn't, because young people view older community members as, outdated, antique. But rather, there's a lot of experience and advice that can not only inform us in the present, but can also help us build a safer and more peaceful future. So.
Thank you, Wilma. It's very interesting. Sejal, what are the biggest challenges young people face in growing up peacefully today?
I would want to say the media. I think the media has overall a massive contribution to the youth growing up, both positively and negatively. I think there is very heavy exposure of negative information. I think in the media. I think while it is important to know about these topics, it can get really anxious for a young person to see very disheartening statistics about many issues going around, many issues that are happening around the world. I want to particularly talk about environmental anxiety. I think that's what it's called. It's so easy to go on social media and see the first post be about something really scary about the future regarding our environment. And I think that in itself puts us in a perspective of fear and worry for what's going to happen for us and for our parents and for everyone that we love in the future. And and I feel like another thing is also what other generations have set up. Again, talking about the environment, I won't go into heavy topics, but I definitely do think that there's been a lot of damage done for us to clean up, and it feels unfair, but at the same time you kind of feel helpless. So with that amount of information going around in the media, just in general, kind of stops us from living in peace and rather trying to figure out what to do next, which in itself, as a young 17-year-old, it's really scary. So, yeah.
Thank you, Sejal. Sagar, your question. Would it be possible to paint a picture of a peaceful family? I think I've already asked the question. Here it is. The school in India is based on the Montessori format. Of late, Montessori has been offering a Montessori parenting course globally, including here in Australia. Is it the same model?
I'm not aware of any specific programs offered by the Montessori curriculum, but I do know in general the Montessori curriculum, part of it is encouraging children's independence, autonomy, encouraging them to explore, be curious and creative, and of course things like curiosity and creativity and persistence with something that you're experimenting with. Those are important virtues. And while you're doing that, you're also practicing other virtues such as patience or detachment from results because you might fail and keep trying again. And so you also practice resilience in that process. And so even the Montessori system helps to cultivate some of these virtues that we've been talking about as well.
Can I add to that? In Victoria, there's 3 community schools which we follow the Montessori method. One in Fitzroy, one in Philippines, and one in West Hall. We have 3 here.
Thanks, let me know.
Thank you. This question I'm posing to Moshdan. People say that multiculturalism divides people and creates division, sends people to ghettos. What is the best way to stop this negative feeling?
Years ago, I heard something that I think holds true, is when you bring people together of whatever background, and we share our stories, and we share who we are, I think very quickly people connect working at an international school, we had kids, parents from all over the world. And the unity, I think the purpose of it is bringing people together and really having that, not just respect, but also really seeing each other as one. I think you have to have programs where people can openly be themselves and share and be accepted. And I found the Virtues Project allows that to just, the tools, it's a tool to actually bring people together. So maybe it is just a way of making that happen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is the last round. After this, we won't have any more questions. So, Alice, what opinion do you have about allowing a child to make minor mistakes as a learning experience?
So repeat this start.
What opinion do you have about allowing a child to make minor mistakes as a learning experience?
Oh, please let them make mistakes. Oh, so none of this, I hope your takeaway from today is not we expect everyone to be perfect at all times, because I think we've established that none of us are perfect. And actually it's very important that we make mistakes, that we go through challenges, that we push boundaries, because this is how we learn. If we were just, born perfect and never made a mistake, like what's the point of we need this to challenge ourselves. So every mistake that's made is an opportunity to dig a little deeper for those gems, to polish and dust it.
Thank you.
Well, keep it short. But please, I actually encourage mistakes.
Okay.
You don't want to make major ones, but encourage it, and every mistake is a learning opportunity. So please embrace.
Thank you. Shivali, to what extent has the Australian government system embraced the educational concepts discussed in this seminar today? What advocacy is happening?
Say it again, sorry.
To what extent has the Australian education system embraced the educational concepts that we have discussed today?
Oh, that's a hard one because
I think many aspects of
if you look at the new curriculum that was released earlier, instead of just classroom teaching, there are a lot of what is the word now?
personal development.
Again we'll take that. There's a lot of descriptors in there that are actually pointing at the personal development of the kids. Again, I'm going to take a personal example from our school. Last 2 years, we have changed our mathematical curriculum at our school entirely. Of course, it reflects with the Victorian curriculum. Has anyone heard of Jo Bola from California? She works around mathematical mindsets. And the whole point of that is growth mindset. And we have changed and aligned our school's curriculum with the WIP curriculum based on that. So now, in our math classrooms, we are not teaching what is 1 plus 1, 2, or what is 10% of 100 or whatever. We are letting our kids explore based on their experiences. We are teaching them math is not closed answers. It's howsoever you want to explore it and respond. There are a million ways of doing it. And if you look at the classrooms now, the kids are more settled because they're not looking for, am I doing the right thing? Am I right or am I wrong? They are talking about, there's another way of doing it. So after an hour of class, we have let the kids scratch their brains and give millions of different ways. Sometimes there are ways where we have failed to think, oh, this could be done this way as well. So I think in terms of that, if we are actually supporting kids in exploring their own brains, that's leading to their personal development a lot. And I think that's...
Thank you, Shivali. It was a hard question, I know that. All right, last 3 questions. Wilma, shouldn't take very long. What message would you like to share with adults and leaders about raising a peaceful next generation?
Just, you're our role models. If you care for others, we will care for them. If you, harm others, we'll probably do the same.
Thank you. And I think Sejal, you have already answered this question, so I'm not going to ask. It was about impact of social media. And I think that, would you like to say something?
Yeah. I want to mention one more thing about social media, which is some research that I'm doing. I'm taking a PC subject called Extended Investigation. So that's basically where you choose your own research, and throughout the year you basically conduct the research on it. So I'm researching about the upcoming social media ban and how it's like how the ban contradicts the concept of how the social media ban has a contradictory nature due to the rise of sharenting. So sharenting is basically where parents share information about their kids online. So while parents usually share information, it can be for many reasons. Usually it's for creating memories or getting bank because through brand deals and promotions. But as the rise of sharenting, as sharenting itself increases, there is high chance of the photos of children reaching the wrong audience. And I think you know what I'm talking about. And imagine what happens with that information, with the advancement of AI itself, how those photos can be tweaked into the most disgusting information out there. And so what it does itself is that in the future, it hinders the opportunity for children to have social connections or to even be at peace, in peace of mind, knowing that there have been disgusting people that have tweaked those photos as they were younger, even job opportunities as well. So I think while social media in itself does allow to have us have conversations that are definitely needed, especially with political wars and the environment happening, I also do reckon that there needs to be a sense of moderation in order to create a peaceful generation.
Thank you, Sejal. I will not torture you with Sagar, so I'm stopping the panel discussion, because I'm sure all of you must be very, very strict. So, ladies and gentlemen, we had the privilege of hearing from passionate speakers and thoughtful panelists who brought wisdom, warmth, and practical ideas on how we can support and raise a happy next generation. I hope you leave today feeling inspired, uplifted, connected, because together, as parents, educators, carers, and community members, we truly have the power to make a lasting difference in the lives of our young people. So heartfelt thank you to our incredible speakers and panelists for generously sharing their insights.